story.
Thank you, sir.
To institutionalize jiu-jitsu in the way that you have and to build a public business on the basis of that is quite profound. I mean, that's the kind of thing that really only happens in the GCC, I think. Yeah. So well done. And in the UAE. Very impressive.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you. It means a lot to me.
I think we talk about trust a lot. It's a notion that's overused. And it doesn't just occur. You have to enable trust. You have to structure projects in a public-private context that allow trust to be built, but in a systemic way. And I think you have to begin in building these relationships, knowing what the other party is looking for, what will count for them, and what will resonate and build trust. So in the case of governments, they care about impact, they care about accountability, they care about delivery. From a business perspective, it's different. They're looking for a clear return on the investment, and they're looking for certainty in their outcomes, in business outcomes. And in civil society, it's different. They're looking for fairness, they're looking for a social contribution, they're looking for transparency, and something that's going to enhance the well-being of society. So I think these things can be achieved if in the early stages, in the design of a project, you've got shared outcomes in mind. You've got a fixed, clear understanding about what your mutual goals are. And to get there, you have to create a cadence of engagement and collaboration that shows respect for the other party, consistent engagement and measurement. And without that, you'll never build trust.
Absolutely. And now to your point about trust. Trust does sound intangible, but is often the biggest deal breaker or deal maker in partnerships. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's right.
And now, Brad, talk to us about how strategic communications accelerate public-private collaborations by clarifying purpose, managing risk, and, of course, sustaining public confidence during large-scale initiatives.
Yeah, what we try to do given that we're a strategic communications firm, and our business success in the region, which, by the way, for a global company, the UAE and Saudi Arabia represent the fastest growing markets for us globally and have done for a long time. And that's built around public-private partnerships. It's not a nice to have. Communications has to be built in, measured, and fully accountable. In the way that you look at governance or finance, the communications dimension needs to be structural. And I think when you're looking at clarifying purpose, the partnership is only going to work when there's true understanding about public value and how that's going to be created. So I think having strategic communications shape risk management, risk reduction and mitigation, and bring clarity both in terms of internal communications, external communications, that's what's needed. We have some great examples in the UAE and in Saudi Arabia of this kind of predictability being built into systems and structures. Sharik in Saudi Arabia is a wonderful example of that, just in terms of setting clear goals in terms of investment numbers, in terms of job creation, in terms of GDP impact. That structural approach creates clarity and enables successful outcomes. And there are great other examples from the UAE as well.
Right, and this is where I think communication stops being about messaging, but starts being about leadership, which now brings me to my next point. In today's polarized and fast-moving media environment, how should organizations engage policymakers and communities to maintain credibility while driving long-term transformation?
Yeah, I think I was talking earlier about the need to design and build programs where trust can be facilitated, enabled. You need to think about that right from the design phase. As you're building the project and you're starting to do that, there needs to be clear guardrails, clear expectations, and a sense that commitments are not going to be compromised at any point, that there will be a shared fix on determined outcomes.
And now, for our last question, for you both, talk to us about the critical success factors that determine whether public-private partnerships move beyond good intentions to deliver real, scalable outcomes for communities, economies, and future generations. Fouad, I'll start with you.
I think if the aforementioned outputs are not already, in essence, and already factored in as a byproduct, no private public partnership would work. It's pointless.
Yes.
I mean, the public sector, the governments, they have a role to play, and they have regulations to legislate us with.
Yes.
But we also have to be cognizant of what we need to what we can serve our community with. We're not alien to this community. So our understanding of the concern of our government should be intrinsic with us. We should not also be a reactive participant. We should be a forward-looking participant. We should believe in the partnerships with the governance. And I use Palm Sports as an example. Today, Palm Sports started as a jiu-jitsu training company. And I want to touch on a very important topic Brad mentioned, employment and getting people involved in this movement, because what we're doing is a movement. Today, we started the company with 50 staff, 50 people who work for Palm Sports.
Oh.
We just announced our financials yesterday, actually, for year 2025.
Oh, wow, congratulations,
Yeah,
by the way.
We're
Yes.
very well. With 1.25 billion in revenue. Yeah, but what have we done? What we did at Palm Sports is what we're doing in the community. We have built a family. Today, we have 21,000 people working for Palm Sports. We started with 80 in 2011. When I took over the company in 2015, there were 300. Today, we have 21,276 family members. That in itself is what our government wants. So we as private sector must be very endowed with our government and the policies. Without that matrix, believe me, it will be very difficult to work. And commercial viability, as Brad reiterated, is of essence. We cannot go into economies of scale. We cannot address scalability. We cannot maintain alignment if I'm not commercially viable. How else will I bring the best of talents in the world? I have to have funds for that. So today, Palm Sports, and again, I promise you, this is not an advertisement. I keep saying it every time I speak. I'm not advertising. But Palm Sports today is the authority when it comes to combat sports. Why? Because I can afford the best trainers. So that's my goal, to bring the best to my community. My government is aware of this. So there is a very important channel of coordination, not communication. Communication is there. It's by default. I'm part of the community, therefore I communicate. There should be coordination, and there should be an intersection of output between us and governments.
I think we have to remember the emphasis here is on partnership.
Yes.
It's about, and in the UAE or in Saudi Arabia or across the GCC, these public-private partnerships have moved from being projects to becoming platforms for building nation states, building strong infrastructure, and building society. So I guess where this begins is with clarity and commitment and a sense of shared purpose. And there has to be an appreciation that risk is being shared. Risk is being shared equally and fairly by the private sector and from a public perspective as well. And I think once you've got that fair share of risk and there's a commitment to invest on all sides, it's then really about whether you've got the capability and the capacity to turn ambitions into actions and into outcomes. But it begins with that philosophy of committing beyond just a transactional. The world has become very, very transactional.
Yes.
Global politics has become very transactional.
More than ever now.
More than ever.
Yes, yes.
And business is done and public life is carried out in a very different context in the Gulf, where trust and a handshake and a commitment, it counts a lot more. And I think with that spirit, one can succeed.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. Now, one last question. I know I'm getting too excited, but this is a very interesting topic on partnerships, of course. I have a question for the both of you. If you had to choose one non-negotiable for a successful partnership, what would it be? For one? Just one.
Mutual respect.
Right.
It's important.
Brad?
I would have gone there first. I think the next thing is having
Thank you.
clear roles and responsibilities and that commitment to a shared outcome.
I like commitment. Respect, commitment are integral.
Yes, absolutely. And we've heard today that progress doesn't happen in silence. It happens when public vision meets private execution. And when trust holds together, it really builds strong partnerships. So thank you all so much for joining us for this discussion. And thank you, Fouad, and to you, Brad, of course.
Thank
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.